Right, today we will begin with a new volume, SD 47. The theme is Precept and Practice. So the first sutta is entitled Sotapanna, Nandiya Sutta. So from this name you can see Sotapanna is in brackets as a prefix. So the original name is simply Nandiya Sutta, but there are a few sutta by this name. So it is about Sotapanna, about stream winning. So we put the prefix in front. The discourse to Nandiya on the stream winner. Okay, as 55.16. This is towards the end of the Samyutta already. This sutta has got an alternate title, Nandiya Sakka Sutta. Nandiya, the Sakya. The theme is we should at least strive for stream winning in this life. And not just that, the Buddha's habit of telling us, okay, you attain a certain level, but you should not stop there. You should kind of work to attain higher levels. Otherwise, you'll be reborn for quite a long time too. I mean, if you're a stream winner, of course, you won't be reborn in the lower states. But you're kind of enjoying a nice long holiday, something like that. Yeah. But basically, once you attain stream winning, we can say that you are safe, because there is no mention anywhere in the suttas that there is such a thing as backsliding. You can't lose what you have attained in stream winning. Even if a stream winner were to break the precept, it will be kind of like accidental, maybe they are forced into it, and they will feel quite bad about it, and they'll be quite open about it, and so on. So in other words, we have here the definition of a good person, basically. In fact, if you look at the grade of people according to early Buddhism, you have first of all what are called the under putujana. Under can translate as dark, blind, under. For example, you have an underwana. Underwana you can translate as the dark forest, the forest of the blind, or the forest that blind. So the under putujana are the worldlings who are blind in the sense that they don't bother about the precepts, they just do what they like, and then they say, oh, why am I suffering? You know? Who don't care for goodness. And then you have the kalyana putujana, the good worldlings. These are people who are not yet stream winners, but they, whether they know Buddhism or not, they are good. For example, we know the stories in the Jatakas where there are people who practice what we know today as the precepts. So some people, it seems by nature they are good, in the sense that they have gone through this virtuous life before. So this idea of virtue kind of live in them for many lives. So this is why sometimes I do say things like you don't really need to call yourself to be a Buddhist, to practice Buddhism. Calling yourself a Buddhist and practicing Buddhism need not coincide. And there are many who call themselves Buddhists, but they don't practice, or they don't even know what Buddhism really is. Then there are those who are officially not Buddhists. They come from many other religions, and for various reasons, we can say karmic reasons, they cannot openly declare they are Buddhists. But they meditate, and they're very keen about the precepts and so on. So in their private life, they are practically Buddhists. So we cannot statistically, you can deny them. I mean, in a sense, they're not included in the statistics. They're not statistical Buddhists, but they are actual Buddhists. And I also have met people who try to get the best of two worlds, or maybe more than two. My previous friend I know who was a black American, he said he's a Jew as well as a Buddhist. Of course, besides the fact of being black. So I'm not sure how he reconciled the idea of a creator God in Judeo-Christianity and Buddhism, but I didn't ask him why he called himself a Jew. But basically, people begin by liking certain aspects of religion, but once you go deeper into practice, you know, for example, okay, why the precepts are important, why meditation is good and helpful, and what wisdom does to us. So once you know all these things very clearly, you find there's no reason to turn to other systems, other methods. So that's called faith plus wisdom. So wisdom makes you stay in faith. And when we talk about stream winning, we have lots of this talking about faith and so on. So let's look at this sutta. Quite a long introduction here. We have about 16 pages of introduction. Then the sutta begins on page 17. The Discourse to Nandiya on the stream winner, S54.40. The two kinds of noble disciples. At one time, the Blessed One was staying at Nigroda's park outside Kapilavatthu in Sakya country. Now, this sentence is interesting because it contains the Nigroda Vana. Okay? Now, Nigroda you can translate in two ways, because Nigroda by itself means this tree. Okay, the Nigroda tree, a kind of banyan tree, and it's also the name of a person, Mr. Banyan, if you like. Well, there is in America a Banyan family. For example, there's this legend or myth about Paul Bunyan, okay, who is a huge, big giant. So it's spelled B-U-N-Y-A-N. I mean, it's an Old English name. You have John Bunyan also in England. So I don't know whether that Banyan is the same as this Nigroda. So here, Nigroda Vana has to translate as Nigroda's park because it belongs to someone called Nigroda. So it's not Banyan Park. So that sometimes we have to check the commentary, the background to know the history of the place. So that's why we cannot always just look at the Pali and translate word for word. You got to know the context. Then Nandiya the Sakya approached the Blessed One, saluted him, and sat down at one side. Seated thus at one side, Nandiya the Sakya said this to the Blessed One. Bhante, when the four limbs of stream winning are completely and totally absent from a noble disciple, would that noble disciple, Bhante, be one who dwells negligently or not? Okay, so here's the question. Four limbs of stream winning. All right? Now, so here you can see the four limbs of the stream winning below, faith in the three jewels, and then the last one is the moral virtue. All right? Now, what's interesting here is the questioner says, in a noble disciple, but when we talk about noble disciple, it includes the stream winner. So it cannot mean that that they are not stream winners at least. My understanding would be that here Nandiya is simply using the word noble disciple in a broad sense, if you like. If someone doesn't have any of these four limbs of stream winning, no faith in three jewels, and no moral virtue, so you have to interpret it that way. So it simply means a follower of the teaching. So if he doesn't cultivate the four limbs of stream winning, would he be negligent? Would he be not practicing? And the Buddha answers, indeed, Nandiya, when the four limbs of stream winning are all completely and totally absent from a noble disciple, he is an outsider who stands on the side of the worldlings, I say. All right, so notice here, we cannot be too technical when we look at the suttas. Words do not have fixed meaning in the early suttas. You have to see the context, right? It's just like in a debate, someone would say, "My worthy opponent," or this good man, although he is a crook actually. So I mean, in a court of law, we use that kind of respectful way of communicating. So you see that sort of usage also in the suttas. In fact, such usage goes back centuries, millennia even. So once if you study something like law, when you look at the language of the sutta, you say, "Oh yeah, this is familiar," and so it goes back for a couple of thousand years. So we cannot interpret noble disciple here as meaning, the four kinds of saints. So it just means a disciple, a follower of the Buddha. So the Buddha says that, section 5, and how Nandiya is a noble disciple, one who dwells negligently and one who dwells diligently or heedfully. Listen carefully, Nandiya, pay attention, and I will speak. So now the Buddha comes to the real meat of the matter, as we say. The Buddha is going to talk about the difference between a true follower, one who is a true follower, one who is not. And he's telling Nandiya, "I'm going to teach now, listen carefully." So this is a very important way of teaching. So basically we call this respect for the Dhamma. In order to get a full understanding, you have to renounce the world for a while. I mean, it's just like coming here to study the sutta, or you spend some time listening to this video recording. The recording is there, the voice is there. It is replayed in a meaningful way. When you listen, you can connect to it. The reality is you are going back inside yourself, your own understanding, your own wisdom, and you are examining it, and you are listening to the Buddha's teaching, in other words. So in a sense, the Buddha's teaching is already there inside us. The Buddha is not teaching anything new. He is telling us that's the way the world is. The world inside you, the way you think, the way you are, and the world outside. You already have that potential for understanding that reality. It's like musical prodigies, I mean, they're born like any normal kids, but then they start showing the ability to play music, write music very young. But they do need some training, they do need some discipline, the right background, the right background. Then you see them flowering into this really wonderful musician who is able to play very well. Mozart was said to be pitch perfect, is able to listen, is very exact in the level of sound and so on. So, in a sense, we all are prodigies. And so the Buddha is saying, look within you. If you are disciplined, you study the suttas, then you bring out all these amazing innate qualities. This is why the later Buddhists like to, use words like Buddha seed and so on. That everything is already there. But we have to be careful not to overdo this. We should not say, "Oh, you're already Buddha." I mean, you're not yet Buddha. I mean, a child prodigy, say at 3 years old, is not yet a prodigy. So we have to cultivate that ability. A tiny seed is not a tree yet. The acorn is not the oak yet. So we have to develop that due process, build up our spirituality and awakening. All right, so now the Buddha begins his teaching in earnest. He lists the 4 limbs of stream winning. Section 7, and how Nandiya is the noble disciple, one who dwells negligently, pamada vihara. In other words, here the person is not diligent. he does not go beyond faith in the Buddha. So here he has faith in the Buddha, but that's all. Okay? So this is called the faith Buddhist, if you like. Here Nandiya, a noble disciple, has wise faith in the Buddha. Thus, so too is he the Blessed One, for he is Arahat, worthy, fully self-awakened one, accomplished in wisdom and conduct, welfarer, knower of worlds, peerless guide of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, awakened, blessed. So these are the 9 virtues of the Buddha. Notice the Buddha say he has wise faith in the Buddha. Well, we have people who are not awakened, they have wise faith in the Buddha, they examine and so on, but they are contented to stop there. And this is what we normally do. Like today is Sunday, you find lots of people go to the temple, they listen to talks, and they go back, and then they come back next week, so it's kind of samsaric, we say. But nothing happens. So what the Buddha is saying, you have this opportunity to be a prodigy. So if you just remain on one level and you don't make that effort, you will not go beyond the ordinary level. So the Buddha continues, section 10, it says, content with that wise faith in the Buddha, he makes no further effort in solitude by day, nor in seclusion by night. Here basically means daily practice. Okay? When he does dwell negligently, there is no gladness. So this is the first quality, gladness, basic, simple joy. When there is no gladness, there is no zest, a bit more kind of powerful joy. When there is no zest, there's no tranquility. When there's no tranquility, he dwells unhappily. An unhappy mind does not attain samadhi. When the mind does not attain samadhi, phenomena or dharmas do not arise. Alright, this is the key passage we have to really understand before we finish or go on to the rest. So this is the first part. One with wise faith in the Buddha. We are happy to be Buddhists, but we're stuck there. So we come to the temple, we do chanting, we listen to talks, and that's about it. So, well, gladness may arise. I mean, some people may feel happy when they listen to talks, but then it goes away. It's very temporary, right? Now, the Pali word for gladness, you can see note 129, pamoja, okay? Pamoja. It comes from the root mudita. So here's pa, strengthening word in front. Just like panya, pa, so it's there. Nya is to know. Here, pa plus mud, a kind of strong sense of joy. So what the Buddha is saying is, we start with joy, then we build up this joy, right? So when you build it up, it becomes piti, zest. So it's kind of more exuberant, stronger. And this joy then settles, then you have peace. You feel peaceful. And when you feel peaceful as a result of this progression from joy, then the mind, then you're happy. Here, sukha, you're comfortable, you won't be moving around, you're quite contented to be just the way you are. You're able to sit there, do your work, meditate, or just do nothing, be happy. So you are comfortable, sukha. Then there is samadhi, some level of concentration. Notice no jhana is mentioned here, it says samadhi. When you have samadhi, then only phenomena occurs. Now here, it's the negative cycle first. The Buddha says in the case of this householder, he doesn't cultivate. Okay, so phenomena or dharmas do not appear or do not arise. What are phenomena here? The Pali word is Dhamma or Dharma. Usually translates as mental states. But here they refer to noticing the rise and fall of phenomena. How, in other words, you don't notice the nature of thoughts. You don't even know you are thinking, right? Now this is interesting because recently some modern psychologists, they've come up with some interesting new ideas. In fact, now they're kind of knowing Buddhist ideas of the mind in greater detail. Yeah? So now, so this person, he wrote a paper on something like there's no such thing as a conscious thought. So in other words, very often we're not aware of our own thoughts, in other words. So we don't even know the thoughts are arising. We don't even know anger is arising. And then later when we realize, you notice, after you're angry, you look back and say, it's very silly of me to be angry, But it's not really that good, really, okay? So after the fact, you notice that when you're calm, you can see that situation in perspective, in context. That's called wisdom. But while you're at it, you just don't know what to do. You're caught up with this anger. And that's not very helpful, in other words. So this is what is meant by we're not really conscious of what's going on, right? So here, phenomena does arise, meaning you can see the nature of the mental state, whether it is positive, it's negative, and then how it arises and falls away. Okay? All right, we are on page 18, 1-8. Now, number 14 now. So now the Buddha goes on to say, okay, so this person, this lay follower, he does not go beyond faith in the Dharma, right? So again, the 6 virtues of the Dharma is listed. Furthermore, Nandiya, in a noble disciple has wise faith in the Dharma. Well taught is the Dharma. The well taught is the Blessed One's true teaching, visible here and now, immediate, having nothing to do with time, inviting one to come and see, accessible, or it brings one to bring oneself up to it, to be personally known by the wise. So in other words, this person, he knows the Dharma well enough. Content with that wise faith in the Dharma, he makes no further effort in solitude by day, nor in solitude by night. Right, so here we can take, for example, someone who only knows, who has intellectual understanding or learning of suttas. So he just stops there. He doesn't spend quiet time. He doesn't spend mindful time. Doesn't practice meditation. That's the meaning here. In other words, you don't cultivate your mind. Okay. So if we don't do that, then gladness will not arise. If there's no gladness, there's no zest. Without zest, no tranquility. Without tranquility, no happiness. Without happiness, no samadhi. And without samadhi, you will not be able to see reality that's going on right before you. So this is a very interesting and helpful way of the Buddha telling us what we should be experiencing as a Buddhist. We do experience impermanence in daily life, but it comes and goes so fast that we don't really make much sense of it. So this is where we need this mind to be well prepared, to be able to contain the experience and for it to change you. Now it's just like listening to really good music, if you understand the nature of, say, classical music or jazz music or whatever kind of music that you like, then you listen, you begin to know, you say, wow, this person is very good. He's playing this difficult passage in this way, and so on, then you begin to appreciate that kind of the way that music is played. Okay? So you have music, you have the way the music is played, and you have the effect of that playing on the listener. So the Dhamma is also like that. You have the teaching, the suttas, they are just words, and then you have how the teaching is taught or how it is understood, and then how it affects you. The changes you go through as a result of that kind of understanding. So you need that inner calmness, a sense of calmness. Now, what about a busy lay person? How do we practice this? We may not be able to spend actual fixed time of solitude on a daily basis like the monks and nuns or renunciants, but we can, in daily life, have a habit of, when we see things around us, we reflect on the impermanence of it all. Let's say this class, you're studying all the suttas, and then you say, okay, well, we've been studying for so many years, and here we listen, and then it's gone, the lesson is over, time seems to fly. So you notice the change. Then you look at the people you know, your friends and relatives, you see them changing, and you say, wow, look at that, people change, people grow old. And then you ask yourself, what does this mean to me? Of course, we can have an Omar Khayyam kind of reaction, because in the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam Fitzgerald, he translated one of those verses, says something like, basically saying, this is our only life, so if that's the case, you better enjoy to your best abilities all the wild oats and so on, because today we live, tomorrow we die. Okay? So, well, that's the materialist kind of approach. The Buddha says, yeah, you will die, but your rebirth, there's rebirth, and the way you live and the way you die is going to condition the next life. So we live well, we live happily in this life. That means we do enjoy the blessings of life. To live well means also to know when to stop. I mean, if you go on eating all the nice stuff that you like and you don't stop, you might end up suffering, getting goiter and so on. No, not goiter, what is that called? Gout. Yeah, gout. And then, you will suffer, right? So on the other hand, if you live well, you say, okay, that's enough for me, and then you are happy, then you find you can still practice as a layperson. I realize as a Buddhist, good karma is not always good. I mean, the fruits of good karma. Let's say your good karma is you get a lot of food, but you find you can't finish your food. Food is wasted. Or you have so much food you store them, you forget where they are. Right? So it's not always like that good. So true good karma is you have that kind of food when you need it, and you enjoy it, and you eat it with people you care for, right? And you feel happy. Then that's good karma. And you live happily, then you pass away happily, next life you're reborn happily also. Okay, so that's the third one. And then that's the second one, rather. Now the third one is about the Sangha, section 20. A lot of things repeat themselves, so I won't go to those repetitive passages. Section 20 on page 19. He does not go beyond faith in the Sangha. Furthermore, Nandiya, a noble disciple, has wise faith in the Sangha. Thus, the Blessed One's community of disciples are well practiced, or keeps to the good way. The Blessed One's community of disciples keeps to the right way. That's the Eightfold Path. The Blessed One's community of disciple keeps to the proper way, the proper practice, in accordance with the Dhamma.
These are all good. Keeps the straight.
Oh yes, number 2 is the Blessed One's community of disciples keeps to the straight way. Here means you go straight into meditation, into jhana and so on. And then the right way, the proper way. Then these are the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 individuals. This Blessed One's community of disciples is worthy of offerings, worthy of hospitality, worthy of gifts, worthy of salutation with the lotus palms, a supreme field of merit for the world. Right, this 2, 4, 5 lines gives us the essence of the nature of the Buddhist community, how they are to exist, and the duty of the layperson and so on. For example, worthy of offerings, that's what Pahuneya is it? Ahuneya. Right. So these are offerings made instead of simply offer to others, you give it to the religious offering. It's better to be given to the practicing monks. And then there are those that you offer to the fire and so on. Rather than do that, you give it to the monks. And then show them hospitality, open house. When they come to collect food, you offer them food. And then that worthy of gifts is dakineya. This is the gift that we normally give to the teacher. This is the usual secular teacher, dakina. You can also offer this to the Sangha by way of the 4 supports. And then the next one is the worthy of salutation with the lotus palms. This greeting, acknowledging each other, that we all can attain levels of awakening. And that the Sangha is the highest field of merit, meaning they are renunciants, so they are not those who make money or who earn a living through the Dharma and so on. So we don't feed them, they'll just meditate and finish up their life just like that. So by the Vinaya provides this link between the lay and the renunciant, where the lay supports the renunciants with worldly food, and the renunciants continue to live and teach the world the Dhamma. Okay? In other words, they become exemplars. All right, so that is the Sangha. So 22, the Buddha says, okay, this person, he's quite happy. He says, okay, I have faith in these great saints, and that's it. They don't go further than that. So they stagnate, in other words. So because they don't go into solitude, they don't cultivate their minds, they don't practice, then gladness and so on do not arise. All right. So this is a very important passage here, which we can use to explain to people who say that, we don't need to meditate as lay Buddhists. But here you see the Buddha saying it is helpful, you need to do it in order to grow spiritually. It's not just to meditate, you need, from meditation or even before meditation, you have to learn to be happy in some way. Build up this joy. So this is where I like to add something like, if you are a good Buddhist, you also value truth and beauty. This is where we come to aesthetics. What is beautiful? What is true? Right? If something is true, it is also beautiful. Right? Of course, how do you see suffering as beautiful, you might say? Well, when we know something is suffering, we avoid it. And that avoidance, that knowing that suffering is pain, brings us joy. And then you see artists depicting suffering. And when we look at that, we say, oh, this is a very beautiful depiction of suffering. And this is something we would not want to fall into, right? So you feel a sense of joy because you are not it, right? So truth brings beauty. Beauty includes pleasure, happiness. Truth and beauty, in other words, are the basis of what we call aesthetics, the theory of beauty, idea of beauty. So you can see here that the Buddhist teaching underpins a lot of great human learning, including art, aesthetics. So if you are a practicing Buddhist, you feel joyful and happy, and you create beautiful and joyful things too. So you notice if you go to the temples in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, you see the temple paintings are beautiful, impressive, and they have their own style. For example, they have this very interesting style in the Thai temple. See, they have this wall, this big wall, and on that wall they have to depict the life of the Buddha, like the way we depict a story of the Buddha using a movie, using video. Now, in a sense, you can say that is a horizontal, that is a vertical projection rather. You just watch and then everything moves in front of you. But if you have a wall, you have to move across the wall. So there is something called narrative painting. So if you look at the life of the Buddha, you see the Buddha appears many times, okay? And the kind of, the scenes overlap. So here you see the Buddha is teaching, and then here is walking, and then here is Angulimala, and here he's doing something else. And the narrative flows. You see this kind of narrative painting is a very common feature in the Thai wall paintings. Okay, so they are done beautifully, and this is national culture in Thailand. You actually go to art school to learn this kind of painting, and then you have different styles of painting. The ancient style tend to be quite stylistic. In other words, they have certain fixed features. Now, the modern artists, because of influence of the West, their Buddhist painting becomes more realistic. And I've seen at least one artist, he tries to depict the Buddha historically realistic too. So you don't see the Buddha like the Greek statue with a big lump on the head. He looks like other monks, but he's more radiant, and he's beautifully painted to appear as human. So you see this kind of development in truth and beauty also, when there is this focus, this practice in the Dharma. Right? All right, so this is the third quality the Buddha is saying. You need this focus, you need this concentration. And then the number 4 is section 26. Here the Buddha says this practitioner does not go beyond moral virtue. So he just kind of just keeps the precepts and he's stuck there. He does not go on to cultivate his mind, in other words. So this whole section on gladness, zest, tranquility, happiness, tranquility, samadhi, and so on, is basically meditation. Okay? It's the kind of meditation that we need as to be a streamwinner, in other words, to reflect on the nature of impermanence and so on. Okay? So that we see phenomena, rise and fall of things. So now the second half is all the positive aspect which I've already explained to you. So let me summarize. The Buddha is saying, yes, to be a streamwinner, you must have faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. Here meaning the Buddha as someone who's awakened, that you can also awaken. You don't need any external help. The Buddha is kind of inspires you to remind you that you can attain the very state that he has attained. And the Dharma is the means, the path is there. You need to do it yourself. If it's a path, you need to walk on it. And there are those who have already attained those states. That's the noble Sangha. And then you prepare yourself by keeping the precepts. That's number 4, right? Keeping the precepts means your body and speech are disciplined in that direction. So the body here also means good health, moral health, physical health, and then right speech, happy speech. Then it leads to a peaceful, joyful mind, right? So you see, this is on the simple level of beginning your practice as a lay person. And if you start doing that, then you are well on the way to attain stream winning and beyond. Right? So this is the short sutta to explain to you. No? Okay, so I'm going to stop here. If there's any questions, anything you'd like to ask.
There's a reference in this sutta to phenomena does not appear. So on page 7.
7, right?
At the top there, it says in simpler terms, phenomena which is the Dharma refers to the impermanent nature of the body and the mind.
Yeah.
That is the true nature of a conscious existence and So, can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. To practice the Dhamma is to see directly into true reality that happens to us in our daily life. We only have occasions, like when someone passes away, we visit this wake and then we see the body of this person once was alive, happy like us, but now is dead. We look at it. For some of us, we do not know what to do with it. We say, oh, well, someone dies, that's it, we don't think much about it. But to be a Buddhist, this is a very powerful lesson. You know this person so well, now he's no more with us. So what does this mean? In other words, meaning is something you see so that you can relate to it because it's going to happen to you too. What does this mean? Okay? We all will die. But if you stop there, of course, it's not enough. So next thing is the purpose. So what do I do about this? I have to live my life well, to be happy now. My mind will go on to the next life, so I have to make sure this mind is at peace too. So the purpose is to cultivate the mind, right? Because the body and the mind are impermanent. Because they're impermanent, they change, we can cultivate them. We can direct that change. We can, in a sense, make sure that change is positive. So this is a very Buddhist idea of change. Now, in other religions, they say, well, all you need to do is just pray and then that's it, God will save you, that's all, But in Buddhism, we say, you can do it yourself. But everything is changing. When you look around, what do you see? You see change. So phenomena here refers to the change that's all around us, that is within us. And because we see the change, we are the change, we understand the change, we can change things for the better. But you got to see and understand what this change is about. That is the meaning of this sutta.
Yeah, there's another way of looking at it on page 6.
Yes, page 6, yeah.
1.2.3.3.
Okay.
Yeah. Explain the sentence phenomena do not appear. You got that?
Yes.
Meaning that the states of calm and ease do not appear.
All right.
That means you need to what? You need to meditate to get into this kind of states.
This is about meditation.
Yeah,
I'm quite amazed. You're a very fast reader. Huh? You can catch all these key things just a few seconds. Okay, so one purpose of this, one meaning of phenomena is watching rise and fall, impermanence of things. The other is, in order to really see all these things, you need to have a calm mind. Because if your mind is filled with other thoughts, distracted, you won't see these things. Okay? So you have to calm your mind first. Once your mind is calm, then the mind becomes clear. And when the mind is very clear, then the mind is able to see phenomena. Because the mind is, in the manner of speaking, empty. Then the mind is able to see this, what's really going on before us. This idea of self-emptying is very interesting because we do see this in other religions too. We cannot receive wisdom if we are full of ideas. So in a sense, wisdom only arises when we empty ourselves of I, me, mine, because this I, me, mine is a projection that we wrongly identify. So, oh, I am this, I am that. So when you see I am this, I am that, this is mine, we try to imagine falsely that there is something permanent here, something that doesn't change, but there's no such thing. Everything is changing all the time. So if we do not see this, then we will not be able to see clearly. That's the meaning here. So calm and clarity are two ways of looking at meditation. There are two aspects of meditation. When you sit quietly, the idea is to attain calm. Calmness of body, calmness of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. So these five senses do not distract us. That's calmness of the body. And then the mind, we calm the mind. And when the mind is calm, then clarity arises. So this samatha vipassana. If you go a little further, samatha by itself leads to very deep joy called jhanas. And clarity leads to a very fine, clear way of looking at things called vipassana. When you see through things into their true nature, meaning they are impermanent, unsatisfactory, non-self. Okay? In simple terms, wisdom arises through the calmness of the mind. In order to be really calm effectively, you need joy. Okay? You start with joy. So a lot of lay people who say they have difficulty meditating, they should do metta, they should do the inner smile. Just basically start your meditation being happy. That is why sometimes some people, when they like puja, they do some kind of puja to feel inspired and happy with it. You can even start, say, if you like suttas, you read a certain passage that inspire you, you read it and you feel happy with it, and then you calm yourself, you let go of the world, and then you go into that joyful state, as mentioned in the sutta here. So you go through those stages, starting with joy, starting with gladness. It's good to remember this series of words in this sutta, that is gladness. This on page 18. You can look at 17, you can look at 11 or 17, they kind of repeat 8 times in this sutta. The key word first is far right, 17, you see gladness, and then zest, tranquility. No, I think look at the positive ones better. No? Positive one. We can see on the last page, 31. 31, you can see gladness, zest, tranquility, and then happiness, samadhi. Okay. Now I've used the word mental zest here. Actually, we don't need mental, coming to think of it. Because this is to contrast with the body. Question or feedback? Yes?
Yeah. At the beginning of the sutta, so there's the use of the word by Nandiya, noble disciple, when it refers to everyone. What is the Pali text?
The Pali word, is it? Arya Savaka. Arya Savaka, yeah. You can see note 122. Then it is obvious that Nandiya is here using the term noble disciple Arya Savaka in a general sense to include both the worldlings and the streamwinner. Technically, Arya Savaka or Arya itself in the suttas refers to the 4 kinds of saints. You can see section 111. Yeah? So here using it broadly. That's why we look at the context, you can know. Because here it's not the Buddha talking, it's Nandiya. Okay? If you insist, you say, oh no, you must refer to the noble disciple, meaning streamwinner, but then you say a streamwinner has no faith in the 3 jewels, then they contradict the definition of a streamwinner. So the only conclusion is that Nandiya is using this term in the normal sense of the word. Okay, it's just like sometimes someone comes along and say they actually use the word savaka. It's a big word. So, but the Buddha, not to distract Nandiya, he uses the same term, but he gives his teachings accordingly. So this is where, as I said, the early Pali, they're not technical. They do not use technical terms. You got to see the context. It's just like someone in a crowd, someone's giving a talk and he'll say, this noble disciple, so the teacher say, okay, this person's talking about just a normal follower. So he doesn't want to go into too much details, then you get lost. Yeah, so this is an oral tradition, so you have to be aware of that. This makes Buddhism kind of easy to learn also, in the sense that you don't need to be technical. You look at what does it mean, what does this context mean. It took me some years, to see the style. That you don't have to remember all the technical terms. You know a few terms, but then you look at the context. The context tells us a lot of things. Okay. And then the other thing is humor. Sometimes the way humor is recorded in the sutta is quite tricky also. So you have to imagine you are there and you are looking at the situation, the narrative background, what the Buddha says, what the other person says, and you find they're not congruent, and there's something funny there. And there's also a problem sometimes, words do get lost, cultural problems sometimes, the way they spell certain words. For example, in Myanmar, a lot of V becomes B. They're easier to pronounce. It's called liberalization. So instead of Vyapada, it becomes Byapada, B. Okay? And in Thailand, the Thais, they have the ear for T and D, they know the difference. But for us, when you hear a Thai chanting, it's very difficult to see the difference between the T and the D. So, but this is a cultural variances. So the scholar has to know all this when he check the Pali. But after a while, you get used to it, all these things. So once you read a translation like this, you don't have to worry about all those difficulties. Anything else? So this is our last lesson for the year. Starting next year, next lesson will be January already. We always will be here. This is where we all started last time. They'll be having Sunday classes. Yeah, so we'll see you all here again. Yeah? All right, no more questions. So we'll end here for today. Let us just spend a short time to reflect. And this is our last lesson for the year. We've been spending quite a few years studying the suttas here. Every time we come here, we are celebrating our wonderful good karma together to increase our wisdom so that we go directly into the ancient text of the Buddha's teaching itself. And this is something not easy for us to do. So in a sense, we are privileged to have access to all these ancient teachings, which we can look at whichever we want. The suttas are all there, anytime we want. Reflecting in this way is joyful, it's good karma, but a part of these wonderful, happy moments, this goodness we have cultivated. May we be well and happy. May we have the clear mind and good health to continue with our study and practice of the Buddha Dharma. And may we have the courage and wisdom to aspire to at least stream winning in this life itself. May our relatives and loved ones to be well and happy. And may those who are practicing the Dharma to taste the fruit of their practice in this life itself. And may those who are lost and have difficulty to see the right way in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.